Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
All right, guys, welcome back to Building Great Sales Teams. I got an awesome one for you today. One of the things I love is being tactical on this show, and the person I'm bringing on today has an amazing tool for you guys to be able to use. And so let me go ahead and introduce him. His name is Jeff Herschy Schwerdt, and Herschy is actually his call sign from the Air Force before. He's the CMO over at Phonesites. He works with Ryan Stewman and Mike Hardenbrook over there, and he's also an international speaker. He's an Air Force veteran. He was an F-16 pilot, wingman, flight lead, commander, and instructor. He's got over 1,000 hours of flight time in the air. He's also built multiple training and software products before being brought on as the Phonesites CMO. He's got the numbers to boot, published 30-plus products, 54,000 customers served, 5 active SaaS platforms, and he's got 14 years experience in the online marketing industry. Jeff, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, Doug.
Awesome. So let's get, you know what? I wanted to congratulate you. I did see on your Facebook page that your daughter just graduated from University of Miami. Is that correct?
Yeah, she graduated the U this past weekend. So I was down there celebrating with her, and a major accomplishment for her, and keeping the box getting checked in the next step in life.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
I also saw that you guys celebrated, and she got a little gift for her graduation.
Yep. Yeah. So my wife wanted to get her something special, so we got her a nice little purse for her graduation, because she's a college student, right? So we treat her like a broke college student and go through her degree, and then here's how life really is, and now she's going to step up. And actually, even though her degree is in exercise physio, she has run a lot of the marketing stuff for me behind a lot of my companies for several years now, as a writer and content person. So I'm teaching her the entrepreneur way while getting the degrees and going through the process, so that now she has opportunities and options.
I'm curious, was it just a matter of integrating work and family? Because my daughter has expressed, and she's 12 years old right now. She's expressed interest. She's like, "Dad, I'm going to run your company someday." Just letting you know. Awesome. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, we'll see. We'll see if you got the chops. We'll see if you got the grit for it, right? Did you just naturally integrate her into, the day-to-day business, or how did that work?
So I'm not necessarily the best at writing and copywriting. I do it for part of my job, and I had to learn that over the years, because that's like the number one skill you can have. And I told her that when she was younger, like, hey, being a writer, copywriting, understanding that process, and understanding how a business works, and how to drive traffic and marketing. But I found out when she was in high school, like in the later years, that she was really good at writing and coming up with the lens of the individual avatar that we spoke to and that we needed to speak to at our business. So as I was exiting one of my SaaS companies, I started explaining to her, hey, look, like, this is what we got for a letter of interest. This is the price that we're going to get. Here's the whys. And just kind of start explaining to her, because she was, 15, 16, 17 years old at the time, here's what we're doing and the whys. And, it was like, I have this job over the summer. I'm flipping burgers. I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, what if we paid you for a couple blog posts to get out there and do that? And then, I'll teach you a little bit over time, over the summer of what I'm doing. And that turned into, making a couple $1,000s a month by being hired by different little SaaS companies to do the content marketing and things like that. And she actually has other folks now reaching out to her right before she had finals. So she kind of put everybody on pause. I'm like, get your finals done, get focused, get your grade, get your degree, and be done. But like, they've seen what she's done in the past, and I just kind of helped build that little bit over time. Just kind of taught her, hey, here's what we do with this, here's what we do with that, and now found a spot that she fit in, and let her just try. And here's the one thing: is like, I know it's a little bit different what we're having the conversation, but figuring out like when to be dad and when to be the boss, right? So like when it came to like, we had scheduled meetings of, hey, look, we're going to talk about this. And I kept all the dad talk, and I kept all the like, hey, how's college going stuff. It's like, I treated it like she was an employee of the business and the job, and really mentored her in a way where it's like I would do any other employee of, look, this is what my expectations are. Here's what the deliverable is. Here's, what I liked about this, what I didn't like about it. And
Mm-hmm.
after, I don't know, probably 6 weeks or maybe 8 weeks of doing that back and forth, I didn't have to have meetings with her anymore. She was trained and educated on the process. I just handed her over to the operations manager, and I never spoke to her again in my company. Similar to like the up and out model of me running my own companies.
Right.
I just basically put her in the right spot. She was trained, and now I had essentially an outsourced worker doing exactly what I wanted, but it happened to just be that I was related to her.
There's two major things I want to highlight with that, because I love it. First off, we think we have to, like, I don't know, just expose our kids to all the different elements of entrepreneurship and push that on them. You know what I mean? It's our instinct to, because we want to teach them how to eat, right?
Yeah.
But you just kind of let her naturally. You saw some talent in her in a certain area, and you let her naturally grow that, and it turns out she was able to grow it exponentially. But even then, in general, when you bring on new people to your company, they have that intimate one-on-one relationship with you for a little bit until they get trained up, and then you let them operate in their zone of genius basically after that. And you don't have to be, connected with them necessarily every week or every day or anything like that. So it seems like that's a process in itself. And I've never really looked at it that way. And so I might start incorporating that, especially with my salespeople when they first come on. It's like, with the operations people, they don't know how to communicate in a way that you can make decisions based on what they're communicating to you. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the times it's just a communication breakdown initially. So those initial conversations, the first 90 days are massive in order for you guys to connect and figure out, okay, how do we communicate with each other?
Yeah, and I've kind of set some benchmarks that I've brought over into Phonesites and Pulsecard of what we've done. Is when I come in, we really start back with, I brought you on for sales team, marketer, operation manager, whatever it is. You've got to have that personal touch, and you've got to build a relationship in the communication, because once a communication channel is shut off, then there's assumptions that are made. There's, I don't know what's going on, or there's like lack of guidance. So you really need to set that tone early. And I think one of the big things that I did when we came on, or when I got brought on as the CMO of Phonesites, was we needed to really define who the avatar was, who the individuals that we were speaking to, what are our roles and goals and objectives and the overall mission of the company, and what were the core values of it, and really instilled that over about a 4-week period into the team, and had one-on-one conversations with them, figured out, what do they believe their role in the company is versus what the leadership thought their role was. Were they matching that, or were they weren't? What were their expectations? What were their own personal goals for the next quarter, for the next year, right? And then just kind of having that conversation one-on-one, coming in as somebody at the C level or the operations level. Now, you can't do this if you have a team of like 1,000. You can't do one-on-one with every person, but you work your way up. So you've got maybe an operations manager or somebody, an executive person that's going to be able to run those operations managers and tell them the touch points that they need to have, and really push that personalization down, and that true care and communication from the top level. Because if we're not all on the same page, we're not all following the same core values, not all following the same mission, where is everybody going? Like, everybody should be driving the car down the road, and not running into each other. But if we're starting to bump lanes, and, somebody took a turn 4 exits early, and you don't know that, they're lost. So we're just kind of trying to figure out, and I did that with her as well, as I brought her into my company. Hey, look, here's what we do. Here's what we stand for. Here's what I need you to do to be part of that piece of the puzzle. And if you can do that and communicate to me when you have problems, then we're good. But you do have to have those check-ins as well, because some people won't tell you anything.
Yeah, and that absolutely. That's why I like the 5-minute phone call or the 15-minute phone call, and I call them touch bases with my entry-level salespeople, because that's where I find out, okay, what's really going on from your point of view, and it keeps me in touch with the company. So congrats again. That's an awesome story, and I love how you incorporated her into your business as well. So
Thanks.
I wanted to ask you, kind of switch gears here a little bit. What is it like to live Top Gun?
That's completely switch gears. I will tell you that from the age of 10, that was my focus. That was my drive. I did everything: high school, junior ROTC, college, even changing my major between my freshman and my sophomore year to get a pilot slot. That, like, I got to achieve the dream that I wanted. So I was lucky with that. And there's a lot of luck and timing that comes involved in that, and then a little bit of skill, right? That's actually the smallest part of the equation, is that you can actually fly the airplane and operate with situational awareness, all that stuff. But, as an operator, there's luck and skill. We had to be able to find, the right timing and the luck that their spots were available. Now, once I got into that job, and was able to become a pilot and become a fighter pilot at some point in my life for about 8 years or so. I think I had like 6.5 in the actual jet and the platform itself. I would have done that job for free with just food and housing for the rest of my life at that point, as like a 20-something-year-old guy. Like, I loved what I did. Now, there was red tape with the military and, moves and all the stuff that, like, I didn't like about that, right? However, if you broke it down to the guys, the squadron, flying every day, the challenges, the missions, training the students, that I literally, if you just covered my living expenses, I was living the dream. Like, you couldn't tell me, no amount of money in the world, and I've done pretty well since I've gotten out, got me to the point where I was like, I would just do this like for the rest of my life for free.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I physically could. And even knowing that, like, upcoming assignments and things were happening down the road where I was probably going to be leaving the jet, I was like, how do I stay in like another 2 years? Or like, how do I extend this just a little bit longer? Because that's the only thing I wanted to do. I didn't want to go keep being, I didn't want to be a general. I didn't want to be, a wing commander or even a squadron commander would have been nice, like maybe an officer group commander. But like, I didn't want to do that stuff. I wanted to be in the airplane operating the weapon system, because that's what I got. I lived my entire life up until that point to get my butt in the seat of a jet.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And it kind of answers my next question, which is, I think what took you out of the military was medical discharge, right? 'Cause you had a back injury. And so, here you are on your way out of the military thinking like, what am I going to do next? And you landed in online marketing. And so,
exactly.
My question was going to be is why not, become a contractor for the Air Force, do some instruction, basically teach, what you did for the past 6 years. And then, there's your answer right there. It wasn't about that. It was about having your butt in the seat. And so I guess then my next question is, why online marketing? How do you go from flying jets to sitting behind a laptop and basically nerding out on SaaS software?
So, well, I didn't start with SaaS. I grew into it. It's just like anything. It's a building block. Or I didn't know where I was going at the time. So, I mean, we lived in a bubble, right? I lived in a bubble being a fighter pilot. Like, I lived in small little areas, small worlds, and by design, in a way, by the military, but also because you stay with the people that, you are in the same community with. So it was like a fraternity, if you will. So when I blew a disc in my back, it was L5S1. I had surgery, and I was actually planning my own recurrency program to get myself back up and back in the airplane and teach the students again. And then my disc re-slipped. So like 2 weeks before I was supposed to start flying again, I started getting pain down my legs, sciatica again, all that stuff, and go to get in. And it took about 2 or 3 months to get a second opinion. And during that time, scar tissue and things overtook basically the surgical area, and they didn't want to go back in because they could put me in a wheelchair, right? More likely than actually fix me. And I'm like, great. And the doctor that I had was an ex-flight surgeon down at in Phoenix, one of the top 5 in the country. So I trusted him, right? Like, we had real conversations. It wasn't like I was being pencil whipped. So I got offered to either stay in and basically become somebody's admin person for the rest of my life, maybe fly a drone or fly a heavy if I wanted to, but I couldn't sit at that time for extended periods of time. Matter of fact, I'm in a standing desk now. I still stand when I work. And then the other thing was, hey, look, you can basically, we know that this is a real injury. My flight surgeon was getting out of the military, and he's like, I know your entire case history. The med group commander knows your history. We know you're not screwing around with us here. Like, we know that you've been trying to get back in the jet. And so we're willing to write your MEB, your retirement paperwork about a month or 2 early, and see if that's the process you want to go. So basically, I get a college degree and a license to steal to go do whatever I want at that point, medical retirement, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, at that point, because of something that happened, I was like, all right, maybe I'll go see what else is out there. And I stumbled into online marketing and all that kind of stuff, and was like, I can make money from my laptop. I don't want to fly commercial. I went to college for that kind of stuff. I wanted the challenge, right? Plus at that point I couldn't sit. for a period of time, like literally like 30 minutes, and I was in pain. So went through the process of like, hey, how do I start a business? Went to the online marketing thing, and that turned into like, we were doing online marketing. That turned into online marketing with some tools and let's create a little software piece with this. And then that turned into, 2011, 2012, creating and starting to build full-blown SaaS companies. I sold a small hosting company, and then 2014, a partner and I built a complete white label SaaS platform and sold it to digital agencies, and exited that about 5 years later because we kept just building upon everything that we had. And when I stopped and looked back about 6 or 7 years ago about like, how did I get here, right? It's like, well, how does anybody wind up where they're at, right? I didn't have a degree. I had a degree in aviation science. Like, I'm a pilot. Like, that's the only thing I knew. But I went back. I had one business class in like my sophomore year of college, and I absolutely loved it. Right, I got 100% on, like, absolutely. I was like, huh. Right, it was like business administration or something. I was like, oh, I'll figure that out. But I kind of went down the road of like, how do I flip this into something that I want to do? And I didn't realize it, kind of like you said about your daughter, like, I'm going to run your business one day. I started telling my parents that with their mortgage business, and instead of going that route, I just went my own, and it got into marketing and just compounding and networking, talking to other folks. And being a fighter pilot and ex-fighter pilot opens the doors to a lot of conversations because people want to like talk to you about things. But that allows you, like, that doesn't get you that far. It gets you in the door to have the conversation. But when people start seeing, hey, look, you're willing to do what you're saying you're going to do, you're following up, it comes with credibility. And being in the military and getting out of the military still comes with a lot of credibility of like, oh, you were in the Marines, you were in the Navy, you were in the Air Force, you were in the Army, like, oh, we'll give you a shot. Like, or, hey, I'm a veteran too. Let me talk to you a little bit about this. Or, hey, thanks for your service. What are you doing now? Right. That at least gets you in the door. And that's what it was able to do for me with a couple of other bigger marketers. And then I put in the work. I put in the effort. I put in the time, and I busted my butt to get to a certain point where, all right, now I have the ability to go and build software. So I've got a connection with a guy that helped me build software, and that turned into the next thing and the next thing. And now, I learned marketing by stumbling and tripping, and I'm self-educated like most people are in this marketing world of like, I've learned through trial and error, trial by fire. And I've failed a lot of times, but I've also taken those failures and turned them into lessons and haven't repeated them and keep moving forward. So that's how I took a back injury and flipped it into, multiple companies, and now working for another SaaS company because they saw the value in what I can bring in and brought me in to help them build their marketing department.
Yeah, I know. I've kind of seen Ryan's journey since, I want to say it was like 16 or 17 when this was just a whisper. You know what I mean? Yep. And then joining Apex a couple years later in 2021, and then hearing about, obviously already being a Phonesites customer at that point, and okay, this is just an easy to make, quick website and lead capture tool, and now it's kind of evolved into so much more. So let's talk about that a little bit, and what it's evolved into. So, currently, a lot of our listeners, they're doing door-to-door, they have sales orgs, or they are just starting their sales teams, right? And so I'll talk a little bit about how we use it. And then, I know we're underutilizing it right now for what you guys are doing, and what you guys have added to it since we kind of implemented it in our company. So basically for us, it's a simple business card tool for our guys at the door, right? And so we do a, what is it called? The chip, the NFC
chip.
Yeah. And so we got our own chips for our own badges at the door, that way we can customize those badges. And then I don't know how we do this because I don't do it, but we code it to our phone site. So basically the customer can tap their phone onto that badge and then get the salesperson's business card right there, which is their phone site, which has, lead capture tools on it. And so that's kind of how we're using it right now. And customers are always impressed with it. They're always like, oh man, this is so much better than a business card. You know what I mean? But you guys are doing some really cool stuff now beyond that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when came on, we were talking the brand Phonesites and Pulse Card were kind of like coexisting on the same site, stuff like that. So we broke them out because really the Pulse Card, the digital business card, is what most people would refer to it as, needs to be able to, get the information from the customer as well as share your own as well, and then set up the follow-up. So we kind of talk about the 3 C's, which are connect, capture, and convert. So obviously, if you're running a sales team, having a card like this and having a business card that's a digital smart card allowing you to share that contact information should be non-negotiable. It should always be in the pocket or on basically in the wallet of that sales team, right? Whether it be a purse or wallet or phone card. I put it in the back of my phone because that's where I keep all my cards. But this should be non-negotiable. Like I've talked to a couple of people that do sales, and they're like, this should be a fireable offense if your sales team doesn't have this on them, because what it does is, like you said, it wows the customer, right? The first thing is to connect. So you want to wow the customer with the digital profile, and that's what we've done by having the Pulse card set up, where it shows a really beautiful digital profile for them to be able to say, okay, now I know who you are. It links to your information. I can grab either your video about what your product is. I can go to your social links, and what about your bio. We actually have implemented a two-way shareback feature right now, so that I can actually have the individual tap the card, put me into their smartphone device, or if they don't have the ability to do the NFC chip, because some people don't have it turned on or activated, we have the QR code on the back, and then they can scan that and they pull up the digital profile. From that point, they save my contact information, and we immediately have the ability now to prompt them to give me theirs, right? So they can put in their name, their email, their phone number, or any notes that we have, and then send me back that information, and it texts me their contact record right there on the spot. That allows basically within 15 to 30 seconds, two-way sharing. And if you're a sales guy, now when you have that information, that note of who they are, where they're at, or it comes from the CRM, you follow up with them when you call them, when you text them, or whatever you're doing as a salesperson to go through and reach out to that prospect. Now you're in their device, you're in their phone. You're not a 7 or 10 digit number that's sitting there. You are literally Jeff Schwerdt or Doug Mitchell, that's calling you, that's texting you. And then you can have the company information, all that stuff. And what's really cool, if you're running sales, or if you're head of a sales team, or you're part of the sales team, you can actually know the metrics of this as well, right? The KPIs, the number of scans, the number of unique scans, the number of visits, unique visits, the leads that are being generated by the card. So you can look down to not necessarily a granular level, but you're getting close to that, where you can see, all right, so I've got 3 or 4 guys that are using this. I've got 1 or 2 that aren't doing this at all. So what are they doing over there? And if part of your sales process, or your sales procedures and your checklist of when you go to somebody's home, you have them scan this and put them in the device to show that, hey, yes, I do really work with this company. Here's who we are. Let's get your information in there. Look, I know that 2 of the 6 of you aren't performing. You're not doing what you should be doing in the company. And that allows me to manage that team a little bit better and really have some insights as to what we can do as a company to improve our sales process. So while it's not like, eye-opening that, hey, look, we know every little detail, it's the important details that matter, right? It's the, hey, who's scanning, who's getting that information. And then on the back end, we already have inside of Phonesites, which is what powers these smart cards, the little digital business cards that these guys are using. We have automated text message and email follow-up. So you can API out to whatever CRM that they're looking for to work with. So whether it be a Salesforce or a Keep, Infusionsoft, or a HubSpot, whatever they want to use, they can API it out. Or if it's a smaller operation, they can just keep it inside of the system, inside of Phonesites. Connect your Twilio account. You can now do SMS follow-up. SMS.
Oh, nice.
Hey, this is Jeff. I was at your home a couple hours ago. Is there any questions? Right? Or email follow-up. And then, look, not to say that salespeople aren't the best at follow-up. They are.
I'll say it. I'll say it.
Yes. I don't want to insult anybody that's on here. Look, I do sales too for a living. I am not the best at follow-up, right? Let the automate and replace yourself. Let the automations do the work, so that when you're sending out those messages, when they reply back, you're like, oh, I got a reply from Doug. I got a reply from Jeff. They are interested, right? You don't have to spend 40 minutes, on your ride home, or try to squeeze in that extra phone call while you're at dinner or something like that, or you got your spouse or somebody talking to you and you're like, oh, I got to finish my follow-up for the day. Let the automation do it. Just automate and replace yourself up and out of that position, where if they are interested, they are replying back, and it helps qualify those leads a little bit better. So all of that is just baked into the site that runs these cards, that powers the back end of this, so that as a salesperson, it should be non-negotiable. You should have this in your wallet, in your purse, in your car at all times. And it can work for not only salespeople, but everybody in the company. Because think about it, you should be proud to show that you work for that company set up. And not everybody's going to carry a business card around. But if you just put this in your wallet, in your purse, be like, oh yeah, here's what I do right now. go to the holidays, go to like, a barbecue in the summer, whatever it is. People are like, oh, what are you doing? Here, let me show you. It's just the wow factor alone gets their attention.
No, I couldn't agree more. I remember when I was 18, 19 years old and I learned Photoshop and I started making business cards, and it wasn't your, black text on a white piece of paper business cards. It was like we had images in it and high-end logos and graphics and everything. And so we were kind of changing the game by doing that, you know what I mean? And this is just the evolution of that, right? And now it's digital, and now it's, a sexy website, and you can pack as much information as you need to in there, or as little information to get theirs, right? And so that they can reach out to you for more info. So
and when I talk to go ahead. I would say when I talk to agencies, the other thing too is sales teams, like, they forget their marketing message, right? You can put the marketing message right on the digital profile, or maybe they stumble, or it's loud, right? You're maybe at the front door, cars are going by, or maybe you meet somebody at a networking event. Let the tool do the selling for you, right? Just go ahead and have them pull digital profile. And then now they're captive. They're looking, everybody's used to looking at their phone, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook all day long. Well, now you've captured them as well, and they can read your sales message right there on the device. And you don't have to worry about like, oh, what do you do? Or explaining this is what our special is, or save 20% this month, or whatever it is. It's right there in front of them. And then you don't have to worry about the salesperson forgetting or disregarding what your offer is, or whatever it is, because they have their own agenda. It's just, hey, look, this is what it is, and it gets in front of the customer.
So, like, psychologically and emotionally, a big thing happens when you're in front of a customer. So, my specialty being door-to-door sales, right? So you're in front of that customer and you turn sideways, and then they turn with you and you show them your device. So you could put the sales presentation on one of the pages on your Phonesites and just run through it right there, versus right now we're using a Slick, right? And so the Slick has its features too. You can tap on it, pattern interrupt, all that good stuff. But if these guys have iPads out in the field, that's an easy way to have the sales presentation there with a quick, this is how this product works. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and it's right there in front of them. And there's visuals, because people learn in different ways. One of the things I love about it too is, any data points that you can give me on my sales team, I'm getting excited, right? And so there is measurable activity in there. So one of the things we do in Apex is building your machine, adding 5 contacts to our CRM on a daily basis, right? And so if you're preaching that to your salespeople as well, this is the easiest possible way to do it. And it's so hard to manage salespeople on results when you create real change when you manage them on measurable activity, right? And so if somebody's putting the effort in, and you can actually measure that activity, then it's easier to keep them around, because the results will come. The law of averages will provide, right? And so connecting customers to your Phonesites and getting their information as well as giving them yours is massive. So right now, iPhones have a feature that I use every day, and it basically silences and hides every call that is not in my contacts, essentially.
That's highly important.
So the fact that you are in their contacts now, and when you follow up with them with a phone call, you actually show up, like you said. It's Doug Mitchell, Argenta Solar, and they know exactly who it is, and their phone actually rings is massive, right?
Because it doesn't go to silenced call. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the other thing too is, I'm sure you get, I get dozens of phone calls a day that just go, I'm like, how do I have 12 missed calls? I was like, oh, it's all the spam, right? Or my phone was found on the black web, because I've had this phone number for 20 years now. So like now it's everywhere.
Same.
One point I put it online and now it's sold everywhere. So I just don't answer my phone if you're not in it, right? That's how most people operate. But even when you send a text message, it's not a 10-digit number. It's Doug Mitchell or Jeff Schwerdt text you. Right. But the other thing too is when you scan this smart business card, right, and you have the digital business card right there set up, you're going and you're putting your digital profile in their browser on their phone or their device. Because what happens is when you walk away, they can still go back and read a little bit more about you and what you do in that process. And that's something that's key, because you're instead of having a leave behind of like a piece of paper or a brochure or a trifold or a one page or whatever, you can do that too, and probably leave your QR code on there so they can scan it and learn a little bit more about you. But you're on their device. So when they go to open their phone after you leave, the first thing they pull up is your web browser, because it's already sitting there with your sales pitch. So you're sitting right there in front of them with one more chance to increase the law of averages to be able to make that sale, or to make them be like, you know what? let me call that guy Doug. Like, he
Yeah.
seemed nice. Like, I liked what he had. Let me talk about what he has over at his company.
Well, and then if one of your friends ask about it, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm getting a proposal from Argent Solar. Hey, I need to get solar too. How do I get in touch with these guys? They just hit the little arrow and shoot it over to them. Super easy to share as well. So that's massive. Let me ask you this, because I'm in solar, and a lot of us in solar use SalesRabbit, right?
Okay.
SalesRabbit is a canvassing software. So how does that work? That exchange happens. Am I still going to have to enter it manually into SalesRabbit? So my guys in the field, whenever they get an appointment, they enter that appointment in SalesRabbit. Is there maybe some open API stuff we could do there?
Yes, there are APIs. We have an
Okay.
API. We actually have Zapier, so you have the
Mhm.
ability to send
Oh,
us
yeah.
apps that are over there. So as long as the Sales Rabbit has Zapier and you can be able to connect the two, yeah. Because what you'll do is you'll get the lead, and then you can either create the follow up in our system, which I would say send the initial follow up and then zap it out into Sales Rabbit, and so know that, hey, look, here's a process from there. So you're doing the initial follow up, but also then putting them into the CRM. That's the way I would do it if I were to look at it.
Yeah, that was my thought on the back end. It's like, okay, we're going to cross-reference the Phonesites CRM with our CRM and make sure that they're in there. And if they're not, we're going to zap it over and then start the follow-up process with that. And that's kind of how we can catch some of the leads that the sales reps aren't following up with or forgot about. They're in their phone, and they're not going to die there because they're in the Phonesites CRM, right?
That's key, right? Because you meet somebody, oh, here, put your number in my phone, all that good stuff, and then all of a sudden, like, 15 phone calls later, 3 days. Yeah, I'm like what? Wait, what was that guy? And then you got
the guy with the blue door.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, shit, I forgot. Like, I got to go back and figure it out. Like, but at the end of the day, the big thing is if they're in Phonesites, if they're in our CRM, right, you can zap it out to SalesRabbit because they've captured that information. You have the data. You know who the lead is, right? And you know the amount of activity that each and every one of those sales reps has.
So help me understand this. So right now I have my Phonesites account, and everybody kind of piggybacks off of that one, right? I think I did the deal a couple of years ago when it was like $250 for a year or something like that.
It's saying that's not going to happen anymore without me being
I know,
around.
right? Yeah, so I got in early. But
that's good.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to all these integrations and features you're talking about, I would imagine this is some type of enterprise account or like
so we have a Teams level account for like 50 or more.
Okay.
You have the ability, if you have a small team of, let's say, 5 to 10, you can get basically a reseller account, or you can activate a Teams account, which there's an enterprise level price for that. But if you have the ability to go to, mypulsecard.com and see, hey, look, I've got X amount of folks, or just talk to our sales team and say, hey, I've got a team of 10 that I need to be able to set this up for. We help you manage those accounts. We have a level right now that's affordable for smaller groups that you can basically go in and you can manage and control everything and see everybody underneath, and they won't have their own login. That's where you can basically control that. It just depends on the size of your team. We do everything from one-off card sales all the way up to a couple thousand folks during a team managed account. So you can do like an entire company, whether your sales team's 1 or 200 or even 2,000. We have the ability to help you manage that.
Yeah, I remember right before MDM, Mike Hardenbrook reached out to me. It's like, hey, do you want us to do something for you for MDM? Because we were sponsoring the event, and he was like, we have these bracelets, and he was showing me the Phonesites the contact point bracelets, and they were actually able to put our Argenta Solar logo on there, and we had them at the MDM, and we're just tapping people left and right. You know what I'm saying?
Those are great for events. Yep.
Yeah.
So I have on the back of my laptop, I have the little pulse button, which I set it up like the little QR code, and it's got the tap button. I've got the card that's always my wallet, and then go to events, you just have the bracelet, because it's a conversation starter too, right? You have the ability to just go like, oh, here, just tap this. People are like, wait, what? And it's that wow factor where it's different, it's new, it's a pattern interrupt from what they're used to, and then when they pull up the profile and you start the networking and the connection, it's just like one thing after another where you connect, capture, and convert them, because they're like, oh, like I remember who Doug was. He was the guy that had the bracelet. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And it's massive too, because like nobody wants. I don't think anybody wants to wear, unless you work for Phonesites, right? Or you're just a big fan, a bracelet that says Phonesites on it, right? No, so you guys are actually able to customize those. So like I never not wear this one. It's got our mission statement, which is achieve freedom. And so if we could do a custom one that said achieve freedom, A lot of people would, I have people that to this day I see wearing this bracelet from MDM, and it's really cool. But then it could double as a business card, you know what I'm saying, and just be able to tap like that. So I think that's big, especially for events. So
no, for sure.
Phonesites and Pulse Card, a lot of what you guys are doing is centered around data.
Yes.
And from what I understand in conversations that I've had with Stuman in the past, like when you talk about selling your company and you want to get your company prepared to sell, a big part of that multiple, to get an increase in multiple, you have to have some really nice data in place. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because, I know that's one of y'all's goals long term. Ryan's talked about that before, about selling for, possibly 7 figures, 9 figures. Yeah. I went back to my notes on that one. I was like, wait, no, that's not right.
Way too low.
Yeah. So y'all want to sell for 9 figures. So how important is the data piece of this? And if you have your own company, whether it's a sales org all the way to your own product, how important is that data piece, collecting those emails, collecting that information from your customers?
It's massive. I exited a company that I built between 2014 and 2019. I got to stay on board as a consultant with that PE firm for a while, and kind of got to go to their office and learn what they were doing. The biggest thing that they were doing, this is like a $500 million fund. They were moving into data, and they were reselling data of like how to get access to the data they were pulling off online and going from there. And that's one of the biggest things that you could have access to is data and understanding, because you can pull a lot of metrics, you can pull KPIs off of that, and data is hugely important, right? Because if you don't know what the data is, you can't measure, right? If you can't measure, you don't know where to adjust or what to do or where to move or what really is happening in your business, because metrics are the king of like driving your business. They're key factors in knowing, and where do you get your metrics from? Where do you measure from? You measure from data, right? You measure from unique scans, number of activity, who's doing it, right? The leads that come in, and then the quality of those leads, right? Do you have name, address, phone number, cell phone? Where did they come from? You can do metric scoring and things like that. So data is going to be a key factor for us when we start to build and get into that ramp up period where we're going right now, which is how do we help the folks that are Phonesites users? How do we help the individuals and the companies that are using the digital business card with the Pulse card and using scanning that on a daily basis, understand the data that they have and how they can benefit from that to help drive their ship through the ocean, right? Where are they going? Where are they navigating to? And we're going to give them that direction, that roadmap with the data, right? Like, hey, like I said, you got 6 salespeople, 4 doing the appropriate thing, and you got 2, right? Time to toss them overboard, either level up or level out of the business. If you can't follow this process, then what makes me think that you're giving the right presentation? What makes me think that you're actually fulfilling and servicing my company properly, or the customers of our company properly? Because I've asked you to do this one simple thing, which is scan your card, and you can't do that. Right. So that shows me at this level that you can't do it. So that data point right there helps you find the weak from the strong swimmers. Just that one little thing right there can make an impact in your business.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, for us right now, we're heavy on, the amount of doors knocked per day, and we track that in Sales Rabbit. So it's 85 a day. And we literally got rid of half of our sales team a month ago because they would not knock 85 doors a day. They obviously didn't have the results. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not like they were knocking out deals and we got rid of them over a data point. No, it was like, hey, we're not having results. We're going to focus on the measurable activities. And it was that door knock data point. We're like, this is completely in your control.
Yep.
Like nothing can stop you from this, act of God. That's about it. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And so completely in your control. And then, as you move down that list of data points that really matter and that really convert, it becomes incredibly more important. And if everybody's goal should be to sell their company, right? Even if you never sell, a company that is ready to sell is insanely profitable, efficient, runs on its own, right? And so turnkey. If you set your company, is turnkey 100%. And part of that being turnkey is your list of customers, your list of leads, and that they can be converted, once you do sell over the next couple of years or whatever the case is, or sold to more, right? I mean,
Yep.
I think that's one of the sexiest things about Phonesites is you guys have a amazing list of entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? Because that's Ryan's, that's what Ryan attracts is entrepreneurs, and they're growing their business. And here's a beautiful thing is you get to see their business grow within the technology that you guys are providing. Because what happens, you see more leads coming in, you see more accounts happening, you see more contacts. So anybody that is in the B2B space is going to love that list of customers right there. So you guys are set up to succeed with that. So what's next for y'all over at Phonesites?
So we're working to be able to get to larger accounts through team accounts, enterprise level accounts with the digital business card, and then helping serve the Phonesites customers that have been with us for extended period of time, 1, 2, 3, 4 years now. It's like a little about 4.5 years, to make sure that they have all the tools they need to make this super simple, to be able to go out there and actually build those sales funnels and put people in the process. But really our goal is to help provide that data, those metrics, with tying in the pulse card to those Phonesites to help create a sales process that fills the funnel. Right. So you can do BOM, you can build your machine, you can use social media and send people to your site, which is great. But when you meet somebody in person, they're not going to type in your website and go there. So that's what the digital business card is. So we're going to focus very heavily on getting that correct with the right metrics as we try to figure out what are the right features for our users to be able to help make it easier or streamlined for the new folks that come in, and then make it more valuable for them for the long term, to say, look, yes, there's a lot of different page builders and site builders and things are out there, but I use this one because of the ease of use, the data that provides me, and then the results that I get with it, plus the world-class support that comes behind it. Like the team that we've got behind this, between the development team and the support team, they truly have bought into the G code. They truly have bought into our mission and our core values. And it's not just, and I've been with some of these companies where they are just looking for a LinkedIn checkbox. I work for this company. I'm like, basically they're mercenaries for hire. I will hop to the next company the minute a better contract comes. Folks that work here truly care, right? They actually have bought into what we do in the mission. And, I took on this role because I talked to Mike, and he was a good friend of mine, and I knew what was going on behind the scenes, because we had talked, right? We have confidential conversations like, hey, look, here's what's going on. Here's what we're doing next. And, I was like, all right, as the opportunity came, I'll work and kind of come in and help join this team and help guide it for a while, because it truly has a mission and a passion behind it to help entrepreneurs start to generate leads, start to generate sales, whether it be creating a quick little funnel for your business or helping your entire sales team convert more leads into sales, right? So we work with the one-offs all the way to the bigger companies. And our goal would be this year, as we move into the next year, setting ourselves up so that we can help all of those quickly and easily generate more leads faster, and then help convert them by connecting, capturing, converting those leads by using the pulse cards and putting them into the Phonesites product.
Massive. That's where it's at. I mean, and I know as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to get with my team and we're going to figure out how to use that exchange versus just sending them our info. Cause I mean, that's great. They have the info, but we want it back. We want to capture that lead,
absolutely,
be able to market to them moving forward. So we're going to definitely take advantage of that. Okay, so there's one question I ask at the end of every episode, and I love the answers that I get because it's all kinds. So the question is, what does legacy mean to you, and what legacy are you going to leave behind?
So I've got 2 children, 4 altogether, my stepchildren. Legacy means to me is that you made an impact on all the lives that you touched throughout the years, right? So I've got a brand, I've got a name, I've got businesses, I've got companies that I worked with or worked for. My legacy is that when somebody says, hey, he's no longer here, I know how he's positively affected my life. And I actually left a legacy. I've actually only told like 3 people this ever, so I guess now I'm telling thousands. But when I left the Air Force, we have a briefing guide that we left, like a briefing deck that we do every single day, our motherhood, then the individual missions, all that stuff. Well, when I left my briefing book behind with the students when I was an instructor. I met one of those students like 3 years later. I just happened to run into him, and he's like, Herschy, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on? Right? I talked to him, and he's like, we took your briefing guide and we've been using it for the last 3 or 4 years before we became a wingman. Then we became a flight lead. And now I'm going through the instructor program, and I can see everything that you left behind for me. So that left an impact for me of what I was going to be able to do for other people that I kind of even forgot about it in a way that I had done that and left it behind to them. So even to this day, like I wish I still had it, but I knew that my legacy lived on through those guys, and I'm sure they passed it down from there. So when I come into marketing, when I come into the people that I touch, I want to leave something where they're like, even when they knew who I was or wasn't, they think of the products that they worked with or in, or the time that they spent in those products or services, or the one time that they made an impact by seeing a digital business card and somebody went, wow, and said, I need to talk to you. I want to make an impact when I'm no longer there. Like it has to do with like integrity, right? So you do what the things you're supposed to be doing, even when no one's looking. With legacy, I want to leave something behind where if they didn't know it even came from me, that I touch and impacted those lives. So for me, like with my daughter, helping bring her into a little bit of entrepreneurship, I wrote her a little note on her card saying, hey, look, you've checked all the boxes in life that are required of you. Right? You don't necessarily need to get a college degree, at least to try, but she got a college degree. I said, now you get to decide your path and what you want to do, and I'll support you in no matter what you want to do. So my legacy is to leave the ability for my children to be able to go do what they want to do, right? Whether I'm here or not, that they know that like whether they choose one path or the other and they go down the wrong path for a little bit, it's a pivot point that they hit, right? It's not a failure point, it's a pivot point. Okay, I learned a lesson and I go from there. That they understand that no matter where they go in life and they leave that legacy on, whether it be through revenue and income or impact and changing other people's lives, that they had the ability because we provided for them that opportunity and the education and the understanding that, look, you get to do whatever you want because you've done the pre-requirements that were here, and now you get to choose your own path. You choose your own adventure where you want to go in life, and you don't have to worry about like, how am I going to be able to do that? So that's a legacy that, I want to leave on with the customers, and I've done, I guess, once before in my life, and it really taught me to where the next steps were going to be for me.
Yeah, I think you coming out of the Air Force and leaning into your passion and not necessarily pigeonholing yourself because of your degree or because of your work history, and you just kept leaning into it, and then it evolved and it changed, and now here you are, and your kids get to see that example. And then, the flight students coming back and seeing, what did you call it? A briefing guide?
Yeah, there's a briefing guide of all of my briefs. Like literally, those took like tens of, if not 100 hours to build that thing out, and to say that they took it and they used it. Like I had forgotten about it. I was like, wow, that was like an awe-inspiring moment for me in my life.
Yeah, I relate to that so much because that's what I want the Building Great Sales Teams brand to be, a briefing guide for people that are building sales teams that they can go back to, whenever they're struggling with their sales team or they're starting a new one. I think that's a small piece of the legacy that I want to leave behind. So that's a great example of that actually happening. So I appreciate that.
And I would never even mention it if I didn't. You just triggered the thought process. Like, oh, yes, actually, I'd done that. So.
No, that's awesome. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you coming on the show. If anybody wants to, obviously, they can go to postcard.com.
Yep, mypostcard.com or phonesites.com, or you can just type in my name, jeffschwerdt.com. It'll take you to one of my websites, which will actually go to the one that you guys have pulled up there on the left-hand tab. And then, or that'll also take you to either, which is my call sign, jeffhershey.com. Either one of those will go to a website that goes to me if you want to talk to me or set up. I'm highly available. I have a zero inbox policy, so I don't have 10,000 unread emails. If you shoot me an email or a message, you're going to get a response.
No, I love it. I appreciate it, Jeff. And definitely reach out to Jeff on the speaking too. I mean, he is an international speaker, so he can do that for you as well. Again, appreciate you coming on the show, providing us with all this value and this amazing tool that we can use with our sales teams.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. And thanks for having me. And thanks for everybody for watching.
All right, let's get building.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. Be sure to execute on what you just heard, and let's get building. As always, remember to subscribe and leave a review wherever you consume podcasts. You can also head on over to buildinggreatsalesteams.com and sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date with everything that's going on with the podcast. See you next time.